Okay, we're on. That was last year's uh, thing. So, believe it or not, we had actually planned on attending the protest this year, and
Mhm.
but we ordered our passports, and our passports didn't show up. So
Oh man.
we did order them like a month ago, and they we looked online and they said, oh yeah, 20 working days, and we're well within. But they, and all our other stuff came back, but our passports didn't. So maybe next year.
Yeah,
There's always next year. So, anyways, you were telling us about the protest a little bit. Did you have
yeah,
anything
I
you want to
watched
share
it.
out the gate? Yeah, I didn't watch it. We just got in from traveling. We were in BC. We traveled about 1,000 kilometers today, so we just got home. So thanks for watching the protest, Ruby, and we're going to be watching through you some of the protest here. What I had on today to show everyone is that the protest is in fact a valid thing. Jesus did a form of a protest, and I was going to look at the scriptures on that, and then we're going to look at something on protesting and that the legalities. Can you not protesting, but for shunning, and when you're shunned, is there any legal recourse for being shunned? Is it legal to shun nowadays? That's pretty old fashioned. So
Mhm.
we're going to look at that a little bit, and but maybe we should take a look at some of the protest. Do you have anything to show us?
Oh my God, I
Want me
should
to
have.
get into? Am I jumping the gun here? Maybe I should get into the Cambridge study, and then you want to get into that.
Yes, because you know what? In the spirit of the protest, I'm still in that mind frame of
Mhm.
inspiration to share stories about being shunned and how wrong shunning is, and to
Mhm.
give our experiences about shunning. So, and that's exactly what this protest is supposed to be about, right? You're supposed to get
Mhm.
involved, engaged, motivated so that you can tell your story. Stop being the
Mhm.
silent majority. It is time that we start talking about these things out loud. Even if it's kind of uncomfortable, even though it's traumatic and it brings up all those bad feelings again, it reminds you of how far you've come, that we have survived something, that we are
Mhm.
survivors. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. If I
Mhm.
didn't go through the things that I went through, I would not be here today. I wouldn't be the person that I am. So when we
Mhm.
were watching this, we couldn't believe that this was happening. We were witnessing history. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we would never think
Mhm.
about protesting or being opinionated about something. You were just mentally ill. You were just in a apostate and nobody should listen to you. But we listened to a lot of people today. And that made my cousins call, like we were talking all day, literally for hours
Mhm.
with this protest. And that's the good thing. It brings us back together to discuss what happened
Mhm.
to us, to validate what happened to us, and to make sure that that would never happen again. It's like that promise that you make to yourself, that you would never shun your cousin, your mother, your brother. You would never shun ever again because you know how you went through it. And until we went through it, that's when we realized how serious it was, that this
Mhm.
organization is telling you to shun somebody, and that's on a piece of paper. You don't know how that actually feels when it happens to you. It's a violation of human rights. And so
Mhm.
that's where I'm kind of in the mindset of today. That's why I'm wearing the red wig today, because this wig is to start the rant. This is when I'm serious. This is when I'm gonna go there. And so I'm happy that my cousin is backstage with us, because this is also a moment for her to share her story of how we
Mhm.
struggled together, but at the same time we were alone. We didn't have anybody, but we have each other now, and we can talk about these things and like promise each
Mhm.
other that we would never do that to one another ever again. And so that's where I want to like dive into, is to share those stories, because we couldn't be there in person today, but our spirit was there. That
Mhm.
anger was there again. Listening to those people today in Washington D.C. talk about the shunning experience, we were
Mhm.
there in spirit. And so I want to continue that spirit. And I want anybody else who would like to join us and talk about the shunning after we talk about the news things that Vern has to click the link and to join us when we start talking about shunning.
Mhm. Now we have Jen in the backstage. Did you want to bring her on stage? Go
If
ahead.
you want to,
Yeah,
if you want
she
to,
can.
sure.
She can be on stage and watch with us. So
Okay.
come on, Jen, join us.
Alright.
Here she is.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi. How's everyone doing?
nice to have you with us, Jen.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is my cousin. I called her so that she can be ready to join us, and my other cousin, King Tony, if she wants to join us as well, because we've been talking on the phone all day today. Like it really hit us in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still troubled. You know what I mean? Like it bothers me,
Mm-hmm.
but that's it's a good bothersome. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, because it reminds you of how far you've come,
Mm-hmm.
and so I told Jen, you need to become another voice. You need
Yeah.
to give your story. Like what happened to us, and
Mm-hmm.
not to forget that.
Yeah,
So go
Yeah.
ahead, Jen, if you want to give a few words.
sure. So with me is my story also involves with my sister Danielle. So I've been thick and thin with Danielle during
King Tony,
her yeah,
her online name is King
Mm-hmm.
King
Tony.
Tony, yeah, King Tony, right.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
I've been thick and thin with King Tony since during her what you call that disfellowshipments,
Yeah.
and that was a hard time in her life where I found that there was a need to be there for her.
Mm-hmm.
And despite that, my you know the congregation that I was attending to in the West
Mm-hmm.
Side Kingdom Hall, they just they never had a time to look out for her, and not even
Mm-hmm.
to give her a call or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. And I I disapproved of that because that's my sister, that's my blood,
Mm-hmm.
that's my skin and flesh. So I had to look out for her in times of needs where she was vulnerable, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
she even came to me at some point where she felt like she was at her weakest, and she came to me. It was like, Jen, I'm going through so much. Can let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke with her. She came to my house and we talked. We cried together. We
Mm-hmm.
had a exchange of words, hugging and express of affection for each other because she was going through so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't stand aside and just watch her go through that while the rest of everyone else was just, shunning her for
Mm-hmm.
the things that she's done. And more recently now, they brought out in the broadcast, this was like a few months back, that they came out with supposedly an update that now they're looking out for
Mm-hmm.
the inactive and the disfellowshipment,
Mm-hmm.
where that was something that was needed years back, like even coming before then. And
Mm-hmm.
I was there doing that before they even came out with that new enlightenment.
Right.
And I that kind of got me more upset at that point, because like, how are you showing this now when this was needed way before then, when she needed the
Mm-hmm.
most and nobody
Mm-hmm.
was looking out for her? I had to help her, sometimes even financially, like give her money or things like that, to help her feel that she was more supported, and to
Mm-hmm.
help her go through
Mm-hmm.
what she was going to go through.
Mm-hmm.
I was there. I was even I'm helping at some point. I helped raise my nephew, and also with my niece, now that she's turning 2 now in December 1st. But I was there for her when they were born,
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
all that was like a lot for her, and I was there for her. So it's a little touching, but yeah.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, tell her to
she's
join
here
us.
now. So if you want to say hello, oh,
Well,
oh, oh.
what I was going to say, Jen, you're You're like a hero. You know, you're a
Yeah.
now. Were you a Jehovah's Witness as well, or
At the
just
time, yeah, I'm just inactive. Like I don't go to the Kingdom
so
Hall. I don't
you're a
do anything.
survivor?
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
we're not
much.
victims,
Yeah.
right? None of us are victims. We're survivors. And when
Mhm.
we put the word survivors in our minds, it's a
Mhm.
different feeling. We
Yeah.
survived the cult. Think of it. We got out of it. And
Yeah.
you were smart. You were smart enough not to get baptized and sink your whole like I did. I sunk 30 years into it. You were smart
Yeah.
enough to get out.
Yeah. I that's the only thing about that. I was baptized, but I just chose not to continue that
Yeah.
road,
Good for you.
and I continue to, again, like help with where there's needed. I know
Mhm.
when
Right.
there's needed help,
Yep.
and my
Yep.
sister was there for me, and then I'm there for her. So that's
Yep.
that's really what counts, you know.
Yep.
So let me ask you a question, Jen.
Mhm.
When you and I were watching the protest and we were on
Mhm.
the phone together at the exact same time watching
Yeah.
this, how
Yeah.
did you feel watching that protest?
Oh wow. That protest was it opened up a way for me to really want to open up my voice
Mhm.
and just say how, in my experience, I I wanted to express what I was going through at the time
Right.
too, you know. So that gives me also a lead way to like letting all those who were there, those like I
Right.
went through what they went through,
That
and
you're
I
not
felt like I
alone.
felt like I wasn't alone, right?
Right.
But all these years before this protest, I always felt like I was by myself, and I was like, man, I don't think there's anybody out there that's like there for me. Like
Right.
I thought I was alone, and now that I see this protest, it's like wow, you know, and
Yes.
it's good. It's good that you see that there are those that are actually there
Mhm.
to support you, and that they're there with you.
Right.
Wild Wall, I think, or WDH. I don't think that's Wild Wall, but he says my cousin got baptized. We have similar stories. A lot of
Yeah.
people are like supporters, like you. You know, they never got baptized, but they helped people that got baptized to get out. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people were on the fringe. A lot of people in the org, they said, I don't know, I'm not going to commit. I'm not going to commit. Not this year. Not no. Oh, well, maybe, but not. No, I might have to study a little bit more. You know, we always keep putting it off, right? We
Mhm.
always
Right.
keep putting
Right.
it off. I'm not perfect enough or something. You
Yeah.
know, I don't.
Hmm.
My hours in service aren't good enough. Remember when you used to count time, right? They wanted you
Hmm.
to have 8 hours a month or something to be a. Did they do that down in your guys' congregations? Want you to have so many hours a month before you for 3 months before you could get baptized? You know, you
It's
had to have a
No.
record of
I
service.
no, I don't remember even having to do that. What they if
No.
someone supposedly wants to get baptized, they either have a meeting before then
Mhm.
or not.
Yeah.
Like that's how it goes, really.
Yeah. No, and
Yeah.
you're
Well,
right.
well, actually, with me and my cousin and our family, it was
Hmm.
more so indoctrination based than anything. Like it didn't, as long as you were in belief that the governing body was anointed, you're good to go.
Mhm.
As long as
Hmm.
you told the line and you did what you were told, that's what mattered. It didn't matter about
Mhm.
any of those other things. My
Mhm.
mom was a little bit more stricter than her parents, but for both of us it was more so like just hurry up and get baptized, and that they considered like now you're saved. So if Armageddon,
Yeah.
Right.
you're good.
Right.
It was never about how much service we did or anything like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know. I used to tell my kids. I used to tell my kids. It's more about it's more about your actions. You know, it's not really about baptism. It's about being a good person. Really, that's what I
Right.
used to tell my kids. But I guess I wasn't always a good Jehovah's Witness parent. That's what the elders told me eventually.
Hmm.
But anyways, yeah, there's some good comments there. Before I miss them, I was going to bring up Bonnie. Bonnie said it's dishonest because it's only because they want to be looked at as valid enough by Norway to be able to get their legal status back. And that's what we're going to cover. They're really changing up. I'm going to look at some of JW literature tonight, and
Hmm.
I like some of the stuff on there is is not what the elders book says. They say one thing on JW.org, but I'm going to pull up the elders book too. It says a whole different thing on disfellowshipping, and that's the 2024 elders book. And I
Mhm.
don't care what they say on paper. What that elders book says is God.
Mhm.
That's how it works. They can say all they want in their website. It's just fluff, and they contradict themselves too. JW, we're us apostates are pulling that out, and we'll never be accepted probably. Mind you, I went to Bethel and they're really nice. And then I seen a guy on the street and he was really nice, elder, 51-year elder. They say that they're talking to apostates and everybody. If you consider yourself a apostate, he says, come on, we'll talk to you. We'll talk to
Oh,
you.
really?
Like, I'm serious.
They're desperate.
I said, I'm an apostate. I'm online. He said, no, come and talk to us. Come on. He says,
Well, then Canada's a different place because that don't happen in America.
this is British Columbia. This is where they smoke marijuana on the street.
Mhm.
Anyways,
hello to King Tony. She joined us.
yeah, there she is. Hi, King Tony.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, my whole family is here.
Hi,
This is the
Vern.
only people I have left.
Hi, Tony.
How you
Nice to see you.
doing?
Good, good.
How's your wife doing?
Oh, she's doing good.
I'll tell her I
She's,
said
she's
hi.
right here. Are you there?
Hello.
See her?
Oh, hi. Yes. Not the curtain.
Awesome.
Now I give away all my secrets. This is how you can be online in a shipping container.
It's very professional. I like it.
Yeah.
So really quickly, before we dive into
Come
all
on
the
in here.
shunning articles we have, King Tony, give us your thoughts about the protest today when you were watching it.
Oh
What's
my
that?
God. I got goosebumps.
Shauna had something to say, Ruby. Too.
Oh, okay.
wanna-
Shauna has something to say.
Yeah, really quickly, I just invited Joe and Fran to come on to the show because they were also at the protest today.
Yes.
So
Oh,
if they
nice.
come on, if you could let them talk, because I'm sure they're very tired with all their traveling. Thank you. Sorry, guys.
All right.
Okay.
Cool.
So Ruby's going to run the show tonight, guys. So
Okay,
she's in
so-
the driver's seat. She's doing all the interviewing.
Okay.
No,
so-
I'm just teasing.
Vern is scary sometimes.
We're all
You
just
never know what
talking.
you're
We're
gonna
all
get.
just chit-chatting. Okay, well I'll tell you guys what. Let's take a look at this really quick. Shun
Yes,
No
go
More
ahead.
2024. That's the Be Free protest.
Mhm.
And we're going to look at a little bit of that, right, Ruby? You're going to show some of the protests later? Yeah.
Yeah,
think.
yeah. So I'll
Okay.
mute everybody in the meantime, and I'll let you do everything that you just showed me, and then we'll tell you. We'll come back.
Yeah, or if you have the link, I can pull it up for but you can do it as well, right? Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Right?
Yeah, we'll do
Yeah.
it on your end because I don't have anything on my end.
Oh, I can do it on my end, just long as I know where to get it. Okay, so what I was going to look at first, a lot of people wonder, and we are all ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, so we've all been programmed or indoctrinated into the Jehovah's Witness religion, and supposedly by using the Bible. So I like to use the Bible, and I always like to bring to everyone's attention, Jesus did a little bit of a protest as well. And that's when he went in and cleansed the temple. And it's right here. It's in the book of Matthew 21, chapter 21. And he came into the city, to Jerusalem. And when he entered Jerusalem, right here, the whole city was stirred up, saying, "Who is this?" And the crowd said, "This is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth of Galilee." And then it goes on to say in verse 12, and Jesus entered the temple, and he drove out all that sold and bought in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers, the seats of those who sold pigeons, and he said to them, "It's written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you make it a den of robbers." He probably said that in much harsher words than I said it. He probably hollered it. And then he goes on to say, and the blind, or then the scriptures go on to say, the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and the scribes, and I look at that, when the governing body, the 9 men in New York, saw the wonderful things, so they see what we're doing on this side of the fence, right? They see that we're helping people, that we're working together as a community. We're the ones that are kicked out. Why are we kicked out? Or we're the ones that were smart enough to leave. We're the survivors. Let's look at it that way. We're smart enough to leave. We left the religion. We're survivors. We're never going back. And that's Jesus wasn't going back to the religion he was raised in. He went to a new religion, love. And that's what a lot of us follow Jesus. We look at him as an example of loving your neighbor, some of the principles that he left us. And it's really not that difficult. But this is what happened. The scribes, they saw what Jesus was doing, and the children crying out in the temples, they were saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. And they were indignant. And they said to him, do you hear what these are saying? And Jesus says to them, yes. Have you never read, out of the mouth of infants and nursing babies, you have prepared praise? And that's what I see a lot in the XJW community. I see a lot of young people coming out, like yourself, Ruby, and Tony, and a lot of the young people, Jen. You guys are you guys are what these scriptures are talking about. You came out, and you're the ones that are praising Jesus. You're not praising the Watchtower. You're not praising the 9 men in New York. You've
Right.
walked out of that. You're survivors, and that's what Jesus is. He's a survivor. He was raised in a corrupt religion, and he just walked out. Now we're not going to go into the Watchtower and physically turn over money tables, or we'll go to jail, right? But we work through the governing authorities, right? And that's what shunning. I actually plug that in, and there is
Vern,
scriptural
Vern,
support for
before we
shunning,
get
but
into that, do you want to bring up Fran? She's on.
absolutely, I didn't.
Okay, Fran,
There's
you
Joe and
have the
Fran.
floor.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, we're here in Washington. We went to the protest. It was very nice. There we are. There's Joe in the background. We're in our motel room, and we had fewer people this year than last year. There were a lot of people that wanted to make it, but they weren't able to.
Oops, sorry.
That gave speeches. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
can.
I accidentally did that. I was
Okay.
going to mute myself.
Yes, that was very, very nice. A lot of experiences, different ones.
And they had two speakers
Yes.
who were human rights activists.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to
Yeah.
get a little more information on them. And from whoever did the video of it. We didn't video anything. So we're going to go back and review the video and see if we can go further and get involved in the human rights organization that they're part of.
Yeah, she's actually part of the UN. From the UN.
Yeah.
And she said just her, and she's grown, and she said that everyone should be a human rights activist because it's about the human rights.
And she was talking something about being certified.
She said she can help us get certified, so we'll get her information.
Yeah, so I think that's the next step.
Yeah, and she can come on. She can come on the show.
Yeah.
Very, very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
But she spoke, and another gentleman spoke. She was, what's her mother a witness? Somebody in her family were witnesses.
There was so much information going by that I made it a plan to get it later.
Yeah.
But one of the points too is that how good it might be, and Fran came up with this notion, and others did too, that as nice as the Washington demonstration is, how good the next step might be to go with state by state demonstrations. So in other words, everyone in their own area develop a statewide type of demonstration. So that's something I think we think about.
Think about it, yeah, because we were talking to the organizer, and she even said maybe to have it in a different location next year rather than Washington, D.C.
I think time to move on.
She was even thinking New York City. I mentioned Philadelphia because it's the, where the Liberty Bell.
It's New York.
Liberty.
Yes, we talked about this. Me and my cousins, we were like, we need to start doing it in all of our cities.
Yes.
Yes.
So the more people that get involved, the better.
And a demonstration, I mean, it could be one or two people
Yeah, it
standing
doesn't need to be a whole
on a
group.
corner.
Yeah.
in our own area.
Yeah.
And you come develop your own literature. Doesn't take much. Maybe a handout, maybe whatever whatever posters you want to show, and make the public know.
But we did meet a lot of, we met, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, Jiran from
Yep.
Hawaii.
Yep.
Is that how you say Jiran? And then
Uh-huh.
the couple, the husband and wife, her name is, help me out, honey. They're a
I'll
couple.
tell you soon. I can't,
Okay.
I can't
They're
remember.
a couple a young couple that just came out. They were
Mhm.
there. JT and Lady C,
They were
they
there.
came.
Mhm.
Vicky, of course, Vicky.
Vicky and
Will.
Will. Vicky's from the UK,
Yeah, they spoke.
and they spoke. Oh, also Dinah Lost was there.
Oh,
She's
poetry.
she gave her
Very good.
poetry,
Mhm.
and her husband and children.
Oh, that was beautiful, beautiful.
And even the poetry that who, at the end
Ivy.
that Ivy gave.
Yeah, Ivy.
Yeah,
Ivy was
tremendous.
the coordinator. Yeah.
The recording of that is worth a listen to.
Yeah.
It really is.
So different ones did record parts of it. Like I said, that couple that we can't think of their name, I think they recorded the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
we
yes,
watch from
yeah.
their channel, Awaken Truths.
Yes. What's their
Mhm.
names?
I know the girl's name is Lexi, and
Yeah,
I
That's
forgot
Lexi.
That's
I
right.
forgot
Yes.
her fiance's name. I can't remember.
His name is something like Jaron,
Jaron?
something like
I
that.
think it's John, isn't it?
I think so.
No, Jaron is somebody else. He's from Hawaii.
Yeah, Jaron is the
Oh.
one from Hawaii.
Okay.
But anyway,
Yeah.
there were a lot of people there.
Mhm.
It was really nice. We started at 10. We were over by 3:00.
Yep.
And there were other groups there too. So it was noisy. You couldn't just hear, even though we had a PA system,
Yeah.
there was music being played by someone who
Mhm.
loves
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's kind of an active
And then
area.
there looked like there was some Oriental people dancing to music.
Chinese.
So
I
Chinese.
think it's
So it was interesting. There's
Yeah.
a lot going on.
But I think it's time to move on.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens next year.
Nice. Thank you so much, guys, for hopping on and telling us your experience. It was so nice seeing you guys there because I watched the entire thing from 10 a.m. to the time it finished.
Oh,
And my
good.
cousins as well. We were so motivated and inspired that we were talking on the phone all day today. Like
Yeah.
it moved us.
It really did.
Yeah, sorry we couldn't be with you. We tried.
Oh, we know you did.
Everyone's doing their
Next
part.
year.
You're all
There's always
Yeah.
next year. But that's
Oh.
good. There was a lot more than last year, you're saying, Joe.
No,
there
fewer.
weren't.
Fewer.
You were fewer, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fewer.
But you had some you had some good speakers from like on our
Oh,
human
very
rights.
good.
Yes.
I think what it did, I think it helped cement the next step.
Whoops.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
There we go.
And I agree. We have to all move into that. We're survivors and we become human rights activists.
Mhm.
Really, that's what it's
Yeah.
about.
Right.
And Watchtower wants to be all human rights themselves. They're trying to play victim that their human rights are violated because of Norway and everything. But
I think the more they open their mouth, the more they're going to convict themselves.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
There was even a pastor there. How did you guys feel about that? Joe and Fran, just wanted to ask your opinion. How did you feel about listening to that
Yeah,
pastor?
towards the end. Yeah, he was one of the human rights activists. And yeah, he was
Okay.
reading
Fabulous.
from the Bible. He
Oh,
did a
yeah.
great
Mhm.
job. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very good. It was
Oh, sure.
well rounded.
Yeah.
You know, there was a
Mhm.
little bit of everything
hmm
and people from all over. So it was
Mhm.
very nice.
And I agree. Love trumps everything. Love should be the trump. If we know what a trump card is, I'm not
Yeah.
talking about Trump.
Mhm.
I'm talking. In Canada, we actually play a game called Trump, and it's a trump card.
That's right.
Maybe it came from Trump. I don't know.
Yeah.
But lots of
I
games have trump cards, right?
Trump's
So-
triumph.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, I think Watchtower is losing this battle. I think and they're trying to put fluff. I'm going to show you guys what's going on in the website here in a bit. But they got some you know how they have old Watchtowers, old awakes? These are
Mhm.
non-dated kind of articles, and I
Yes.
typed in shunning, and they're posting some new stuff on their website. And I'm going to
Oh,
share 2 articles.
They can't.
Yeah, we're
What?
gonna get into that, but
They
I just
can
want to
be
give
coding it.
a final thank you to Joe and Fran. If you guys have to go and rest, thank
Yo,
you
thank
so
you.
much
Yes.
for
Yes.
Thank
joining.
you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
thank
us
you.
on.
Love you.
Okay, love you.
Love
Bye.
you
We're gonna give
too.
you a
Have
big
a good night.
Thank you.
we're gonna give them a big clap. Where's my clapping hands?
Oh yeah,
Lost it.
I love that applause. Do it.
There it is. Okay, here's to Joe and Fran right here. Okay. Thank you, Joe and Fran.
That was awesome.
That was great. So that's I
Sorry.
think
One
that's
more
something to
thing.
put on our bucket list.
Sorry, one
Go
more thing
ahead.
before we move on.
Go ahead.
Jen, you have a bit of a feedback. So just mute yourself, and then when you want to give a comment, unmute yourself so that I know you want to talk. Okay? Okay. All right, go ahead, Vern.
Okay, so where do you want to go next? You want to show some of the protest, or you want me to get into the legalities and what's going on there?
Do the legalities and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff, because we watched
Okay.
it, the whole protest and stuff like that. And if anybody wants to watch that protest in its entirety, go to Awaken Truths or Lady C and JT. They both live streamed the protest, and you can watch that later at your free time. But I do want to give
Mhm.
more emphasis to our particular shunning stories, so that everybody can have that moment that we saw in the protest, because even though we weren't there physically, we're here. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So if anybody else wants to join on, I want to give everybody a few minutes to give their shunning story. So go ahead, Vern.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is, with shunning, if anybody's out there, if anybody's online, anybody's getting shunned right now, it's very important, the talk therapy. And everything that I've been researching so far, it's about talking, and not feeling judged, just talking openly.
Right.
Talk about how you got out. We're survivors. So you see, the more we share our stories as survivors with that in mind, the more it's going to encourage and help all those online watching us. And it is a mentality. I know I felt like a victim for a long time. And then that gets old after a while, doesn't it? And then we start figuring, okay, what am I going to do next? So now this is being a survivor. What are we going to do next? What we have to do is, perhaps we have to shun them. Maybe
A
some
little
of
bit.
what they're doing a little bit is, that's culty. I don't know if they're going to preach at us. I don't know. I'm going to say, make me a do not call. I don't want to be preached at. That's what survivors do. We don't need that stuff. So, but anyways, here's what I'll show you, what the whole world is saying about this. This is coming from the National Library of Medicine, and I covered this, but this is so important. This is recent, October 2024. The improvements that hasn't even happened yet. But this article is from, where is it? 2023. Here's my kitty. He wants to be petted. Okay. This isn't actually our kitty. This is the people's kitty, but he's really friendly. Okay, you're going to have to go. Go. My mouse is there. You can't have the mouse. I need my mouse. Hey, don't walk on the keyboard. That's what's going to close the show down. Okay, you got to go. Okay, now what's happening? Okay, it's still working. Sorry about that. The Pastor. Okay, this is brand new information. What happens to those who exit Jehovah's Witness? An investigation of the impact of shunning. That's what this is talking about. And I gotta mirror my camera. Oops, sorry. I got my camera. I'm looking the wrong way. It's just the way I look. Okay, so abstract. Shunning and ostracism have severe impacts on an individual's psychological and social well-being. Members of Jehovah's Witnesses are subject to shunning when they do not comply with the stated doctrine or belief system. To investigate the effects of shunning, interviews with 10 former Jehovah's Witnesses, ranging in age from 20 to 44, were conducted: 6 male, 6 white, 1 native, blah, blah, blah. Transcripts were analyzed with interpretive, whatever that word, and analysis for narrative themes pertaining to their life after exclusion from their former faith using the context of Jehovah's Witness culture. And here's the results. They suggest that shunning has a long-term detrimental effect on mental health, job possibilities, and life satisfaction. So let's say that again, because I feel I've experienced every one of these.
Yes.
The results suggest shunning has long term, and I'm 12 years being shunned, right? When I left, detrimental effects on mental health, the anxiety, because you see, we live that last moment. We live that last moment of them shutting us off. They carry on. They have a life. They figure that they're saving us. They have a clean conscience. They figure they're saving us because they're going to shame us into coming back. And you see, for some of us, we'll never go back. So we hang on to that last moment, all those discussions, and it hurts us. It harms us. We can't move on. So we're sitting in limbo. A lot of us. We're not moving forward. So this is what's going on. The professionals realize this. It's long term. Is detrimental on our mental health, and then our job possibilities go down the drain because we're at work and we're thinking about it. We're not on. How often is your mind thinking about that? Because our whole life was being a JW. It controlled every movement of us inside our brains, and now we got to undo all that, and it's difficult. And so it affects us on our jobs, the life side. And here's the other thing: being a Jehovah's Witness, no higher education. We walk out of there without higher education. What kind of a job are we going to get without a college degree nowadays? So this is a problem with this religion. Problems are amplified in female former members due to heavy themes of sexism, excuse me, and patriarchal narratives pervasive in Jehovah's Witness culture. And that's so true. So true. And all you girls online can speak about that in so many different ways.
Yeah, we are going to.
And feelings of loneliness, loss of control. How many times have you felt that? Loneliness. When you're disfellowship, you're all alone. You think the whole world's wicked. You're not sure what to think.
Yes.
And then then some of us go out and experiment, and because we're all screwed up, it doesn't work out. We're in and out of relationships. And that's what happens. So feelings of loneliness, loss of control. That's where I had lots of losses of control because I didn't really know what's going on in my head. You know the whole story. You guys know the story. And worthlessness. Those are also common after leaving. So the culture of informing on other members inside the Jehovah's Witness also leads to a continued sense of distrust and suspicion long after leaving. It's like kids in that congregation. They're all telling on each other to the elders. And this is what we're exposing. So anyways, that's the medical health. That's their abstract.
Oh, Vern. Vern, look at the key words right there. Look how interesting that is.
Down below.
Yeah, did you see that? Key words: shunning, ostracism, Jehovah's Witnesses, fundamentalism, disfellowshipping, familicide, suicide. It's like all of these things connect. Everything connects. Once you understand that, you can help yourself and you can heal yourself. But when you're so isolated in that culture and in that community, you don't know anything on the outside. And that leaves us to nothing. We were thrown to the wolves and we had to fend for ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, that's what this community's about, is to have some togetherness. Now, my next thing, and we're getting close to another thing I wanted to show you, this study. Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's starting Oslo court system. It's illegal to shun. They can't shun no more there. So what are they doing? I went on their website, and there's no article here, but do Jehovah's Witnesses shun those who used to belong to their religion? They're saying no, we don't. We do not automatically disfellowship someone who commits a serious sin.
That's a
Well,
lie.
That
That's
I
a lie.
know.
is a lie right there. Right
Yeah.
there.
We all
I
So
got
they,
have
CF
I have
automatically.
I
Yep.
have
yeah,
witnessed twice that my
yeah,
sister's been disfellowshipped in
yeah.
public in congregation. So that is right there is inaccurate.
So they're fluffing this up. The goal is to help each individual. Blah blah blah. This is kind of almost word for word what Ganam read in the Canadian court. It's a lot of fluff. I have the Elders book I've been reading. We talked about that, and it's. I'm just going to show it briefly. There's 130 references on disfellowshipping. It's sad. Now here's another one. Can a person resign from being one of Jehovah's Witnesses? Apparently you can.
Hmm.
Apparently you can, but I read in the Elders book, you see it says yes. It says yes, you can do it two ways.
Yeah, technically,
So
yes.
so you can resign. It says no, we do not. Resigning or dissociating oneself is different from becoming weak in faith. Often those who for a time slow down or stop in their worship have not abandoned their faith but are suffering from discouragement. So they think you're still in it, right? So
Hmm.
if the person wants help, it's all about they're trying to get you back. However, the elders are not authorized to coerce or pressure someone to remain as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And each person makes his own choice regarding the religion. And we believe that those who worship God must do so willingly from the heart. You
Hmm.
see, I sent them a letter to the Bethel and I said, I'm going to worship Jehovah on my own, no longer in the congregation. Your elders are corrupt. And I gave
Right.
them so many illustrations. True. And they knew about it. So I did. I worshiped on my own, but they still disassociated me and announced it because everyone quit calling. And that's what pissed me off. That's what made me mad. Because
Wow.
for a while, I could talk to people. I could have go for dinner with my daughter and stuff like that. But then right before the virus, I was cut off. Something
Hmm.
happened. And I know what it was, and I went back and forth with a brother on it, and he gave me a cease and desist letter, which is a legal form of saying don't ever talk to me again or I'll sue you. So you can't. I can't afford to go into a lawsuit.
Hmm.
So and Watchtower has deep pockets, right?
Oh my
So
God.
I quit talking. I quit. I'm not going to get sued. I'm not going to go that route. So,
Hmm.
anyways, moving forward, is shunning legal? Well, Reddit, there's some stuff. It says new research. Shunning is morally wrong, but we live in a world where legal can mean different things in different countries. And there's this article here, shunning from Jehovah's Witness community, drawing on the qualitative study conducted with both individuals who have been shunned from Jehovah's Witness community and those who are in a position to shun. The authors identify areas of development within the Serious Crimes Act and propose there is a scope to interpret the law broadly to include instances of people shunned from Jehovah's Witnesses. So here's the Cambridge study. This is a Cambridge University. Those guys are into some core stuff. Cambridge core, it says. Shunning, and imagine that, eh? Right in the university, these university students, these worldly students, all studying this stuff,
That's great.
getting degrees in law or whatever they're doing. And this is the subject of the day. Shunning from Jehovah's Witness community, is it legal?
Mm.
And this is brand new stuff. This is August 2023. This is not old stuff. With all the stuff online, like that's going on in the world with Jehovah's Witnesses, all the CSA, all the stuff being uncovered, well, all the people disfellowshipped. Shunning. This is what we're talking about. Shunning. Drawing on a qualitative study conducted with both individuals who have been shunned, those who are in positions that I already read that they say that there is legalities. Now they want you to buy this article for $26. I wasn't going to buy it, but I'll pin it if anybody is into legalities and wants to look through this. They can. They're studying it, and that's what I thought was interested or
Hmm.
interested me is we're talking about shunning, shun no
Hmm.
more 2024. It's out there. So Watchtower has to be careful. Now I also did just quick here, a little research. If you want to hire lawyers, Watchtower lawyers, this Rizdal was $600 an hour. He was
Mm-hmm.
an expensive lawyer, but to fight the Watchtower folks, you need a good lawyer, and it's going to cost you. Lawyers are not cheap. If you want to know about lawyers, guess what? Watchtower knows all about lawyers. So I went on their website, need a lawyer. They tell you how to find a lawyer, for frickin' sakes. Because they're telling their own people to find lawyers, right? Remember, they're victims. They
Mm-hmm.
have some good information on here how to find a lawyer. I need another one. I need a lawyer. I thought it was hilarious. Anyways, they tell you how to source lawyers out, and but
Yeah,
sourcing a good lawyer
I
out
thought
is
that they
hard.
didn't encourage the brothers taking each other to court.
Yeah,
Right.
and they have 2 articles on it, how to find a lawyer.
That's crazy.
I think because
Honestly, that's
they
mind-boggling because I've never seen
yeah,
that in the DW.org library. Like,
they
because
have articles. They'll hire they'll use their own lawyers. Let's say you left your husband, right? I'm just going to give you an illustration. Your husband's an elder,
Mm-hmm.
and he wants to keep the kids. You left the religion, and you want the kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to fight you tooth and nail so that they can save those kids' lives because you're the wicked one.
Right.
And Watchtower will support him. You see what's going on? That's why they teach their people to get lawyers. There's so many divorces, people leaving the religion, couples breaking up and just divorcing. Who gets the kids? Watchtower is almost hiring lawyers
they're
for
literally
its people.
dividing families.
They are. So, anyways, that's a little bit of research I got. It's not much,
That was
but
awesome. Thanks, Fran.
there's a lot
Right?
going on in the world. This shunning is being looked at by professionals, so that's good for us.
Yeah.
Maybe, and Watchtower is saying that we don't really shun. That's what they're kind of saying. But now I'll just show you this really quickly, and then you're all back to Ruby. She's got the show. This is the Watchtower's. I'm just going to go up. I plugged in Shunning to the Elders book. This is the Elders book 2024. It comes up 130 times, shunning or disfellowshipping. And it's all about disfellowshipping. It's not going away. It talks about previously reapproved brothers, disfellowship, disassociating, and it's all the instructions on how to interrogate people. This is about interrogation. So if you want back in, you're going to be interrogated in these meetings. They're going to ask you, are you committing fornication still? And blah, 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 blah. It's none of their damn business, right? What you're doing. But they're going to interrogate you, and it's all in this book. And it's a destructive book. It only has the word love in it 5 times. But yet disfellowshipping is in there 130 times. It's a bad book. But that's all I'm going to say. This is the Elders book. I'll just show it to you really quickly. The shepherd, that's what it looks like. You might have seen elders carry that around.
Is there any way to like get a copy of that just to like read through it?
I can put a link on this broadcast at the end where you can link in and get the PDF for it.
Yeah.
And you can read it.
Yeah.
You'll know what, and this elder book trumps everything else that's written. This elders book.
This is the Constitution of JW Land. This is what they're going to refer to.
Yeah. I believe they're going to change it. They're going to come up with a new elders book
This is their Bible.
But this is their Bible.
I was just going to say something quick that with this here, they're updating that information because of the new broadcasting that came out for the inactive and disfellowshipment. So they're going to update all the information and take out what's old and put in the new.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So, yeah, they're going to have to do that. But it's not to say that we know the truth. Why, what's in there and what's been said before they update the information.
So here, I want to show you this page here. This is a directions to the elders. And just so we don't blame the elders, I guess, well, I blame the elders a bit for being silly enough for sticking it out, staying in there. But this book has everyone brainwashed that it's all about the Bible here, apply the Bible. But number 2, obey direction from the faithful, discreet slave. That trumps everything. And it says, and from an overseer, and from and such as those at the branch office and the circuit overseers. So you have to obey the direction from them. That trumps everything. But you seek to understand the Bible, but you obey. You see, it's opposite. It should be obey the Bible and seek some direction from some of the elders and over.
Right.
It's backwards here.
Right.
It's a
Or what
cult.
about
That's
Jesus
a sign of a
Christ?
cult.
That's
Forget
what I'm
about the faithful in
saying.
the
Yeah,
streets.
even
Like
put him in there.
Jesus Christ.
Look at the next third. Listen carefully to other elders. 4. Well, if you disagree, then deal kindly and smile. Do not impose personal viewpoints that are arbitrary to what they believe, right? So let's say I don't believe in their blood doctrine, right? I see it as different. Jesus is life over death, right? You know, if a lamb's going to fall in the well on the Sabbath, you're going to save him on the Sabbath. You're going to break a rule. You know, he broke rules to pluck grain and glean grain on the Sabbath, right?
Right.
He fought them continually on their rules. And all of a sudden, J.W. Org comes in with a bunch of rules.
There you
Come
go.
on. It does not match Jesus' words. And that's why we on this side of the fence know that this is cult, this book.
Right.
It's not,
Right.
You're following 9 men. You're not following, like Ruby said, there's nothing in here about Jesus in this opening section, nothing in here about following. Well, it says you're accepting Jesus as head of the congregation promotes cooperation and unity. It's all their words, you know. So they feel that if you accept Jesus, you accept them. They are like them and Jesus are one. That's what they're saying. And we know that's how they think, but it's cult. The pastor doesn't talk like that gave the speech, I bet, does he? No. Anyways, that's all I have for you.
Amazing.
So Ruby, it's
So
yours.
much. That was really
Thanks.
amazing.
Yep.
Yeah,
And just
their elders book is going to have to go down. I'm going to silence myself, but their elders book has to be burned.
It has to be
And
put
we have to
out
use
there
the Bible. That's
like,
what I think.
let people
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Just to give a reminder to anybody who just tuned in, there's a link in the top of my chat on the YouTube if you would like to come on and share your experience of shunning or mental health. That's exactly what we're going to get into, because that's exactly what the protest was about. Love, love doesn't shun, no more shunning. No more shunning, right? Shun no more 2024. So I'm going to give Jen Friend, I'm going to give King Tony a few minutes each to describe what happened to you, how you were shunned, how did that impact your mental health, exactly everything Vern just showed us in those articles and in those studies, how it was so detrimental to our lives. It ruined our lives. So I want to give you guys that moment that those speakers had today earlier when we were watching them, because it inspired us to once again share our stories and be a part of this movement, because it's going to be a movement forever. It's not just 2024. This is forever, because we're never going back. So I want to give, who wants to go first? King Tony, Jen, who put your hand up if you, okay, King Tony, go ahead first. You got like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've explained a little bit about like my situation. Like I was a pioneer basically. I got up to being a pioneer, and I went to pioneer school for the first time ever. I think I was like 21, and it just got to a point where my parents, it stopped being, oh, I'm going to support you, so give your 100% full devotion in life and just pioneer, preach, and do what you can for Jehovah. And then it went to, yeah, we can't support you no more. And I'm like, okay, so then how am I going to be able to go door to door and do the, and pioneer? And that's how I went into the Year Up program, and I met the father of my kids, and that's basically my shunning, because I saw that people outside the religion were actually nice and they weren't evil, and it was not like this hateful society that they claim that everyone's out to get you, and like little by little I started to get to know people more and more, and I got to know my partner, and then I had gotten pregnant, and basically they were telling me when I went in and I told the elders, that I had a choice to make, and it was basically removing him from my life
Mm-hmm.
and like keeping the child from him
Mm-hmm.
and having some type of connection, legally. But that was really the decision in my heart. I'm like, I can never take away a child from like a parent like that. Like, he has rights, and he is not evil, and he has not done anything to hurt me, or harm me. And if anything, he's opened my eyes more every single time I talk to him. And we would spend hours talking to him. And it's so funny. I'm like, so yeah, I'm a Jehovah's Witness and I have standards, and you gotta be here.
Yeah.
So these are the things I'm expecting and looking for. And I'm not the type to be, like going and dating and meeting these guys and one night stands. That's not me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, of course, no problem. Like, and he was really calm, collect, like, sure. And I was like, yeah, like, I don't know what you're expecting, but we got to know each other, and it wasn't like that. And he broke those walls down, and he allowed me to be myself and express myself. And he saw the trauma, and obviously we went through it because I was slowly leaving, and it was my conscience, that trained conscience, always telling me, oh, am I making that wrong decision? Am I going against my better judgment, against what I've known my whole life, and this could actually be the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Am I signing my life to the devil? Like, it was just that constant mental battle.
Mm-hmm.
And I left. There was a fight. I left, took the kid away. I would go running back to my mom and my dad and their open arms. And then I would start going back to Kingdom Hall, and it was just a cycle. And then that cycle really messes you up. It's like a constant door closing in your face, and it's like a lot of clashing, and it's also just me and my gut feeling and my intuition, like there's something wrong. This is not right. And I was talking to Ruby earlier, and I was telling her, like, when I devoted my life to God, like I really did.
Mm-hmm.
I really devoted my life to God, not because of them, but like I really believed in God, and like I wanted to serve God and give my life to him and teach people about him, to give hope. But this religion is just like, or this cult.
There you go.
It's the other thing. Like, is it really a religion? Like, there's just so many things I have to come to terms with. And like, even she was like, you got to go down the rabbit hole. And I'm like, the rabbit hole.
You do. One day you have to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I was
it's really
going to ask
scary.
you, were you raised in it?
Mm-hmm.
I missed that. You were raised as a JW, right?
Oh yeah, so it's weird because as children, I would say probably toddlers, my parents were not going to meetings. The only access we had was Ruby's mom and my grandmother, my mom's mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of basically, as we talked, I came to the conclusion that they used us to get to our parents.
Right.
And that's where kind of like everything comes together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there's
they'll use kids.
there's just a lot of light that has been shed
Mm-hmm.
that helps us to understand certain things that it don't make sense, that they themselves have gone through,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, where were you there to protect us and teach us better?
Mm-hmm.
Where in your head did you say, I want better for my kids because I went through this and I know this is happening in this organization.
Mm-hmm.
But then we started talking about it's the constant fear that makes them stay. And not a lot of people have that courage or they're not ready to take the step or the strength to go against it. Your better trained conscience, your better judgment, and actually see what's out there and the truth.
My wife and I had a discussion on our trip about that, and like the parents did fail. They were in a cult. They got into a cult, or they're born in. Maybe they were raised in it. I don't know, but they're in this cult. I raised my kids in the cult, so this is a question I have. You know, one of my kids is in there still, but as a parent in there, you don't see it. You're in the cult. You're indoctrinated. You just I was not raised in it. I chose to go into it when I was. I think I got baptized when I was about 21. But I started studying at 18, and I chose it. I was unsure. You know, when you're a kid, when you're 18, you don't know anything. I just got fooled into the it was a religion about love. That's what I got fooled into.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what most of us are searching for when we're young. We're searching for love, right?
Yeah.
And then we get into this religion and we find out, wow, well, it's, and I could never figure out why my marriage wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work because my ex-wife was and still is married to the governing body. She's married to elders, and she's you know what I'm saying mentally.
Oh, like
Mentally.
Indoctrination.
Like
She's brainwashed.
If I say anything as a husband, let's say I'm sitting at the table and I say, you know, something's not quite right with that elder. I know it. Because, you know, we had an elder in a book study where his 14-year-old daughters would sit on his knee and he'd caress their legs and stuff like that. It was really weird, right? 14 years old, 13 years old. This is weird. And these two girls would sit beside him and just cling on him. And we'd have these discussions, you know, and I could never talk to her about stuff. And then she'd phone the elders, or you know, tell on me. Tell on me.
To snitch.
So am I married to that woman? No. She's mentally married to the governing body.
Yes. That's 100% true. And
that's why you can't have a fair marriage. You can't say you were really married in that religion. If you got out and your mate's still in there, your ex or whatever is still in there, you didn't have a fair shot at it. They're married to the watchtower. Yeah. They're having a sexual relation in their head. Not quite, but they have an immoral relationship. For a man to have a relationship with those 9 men, that's immoral. That's immoral.
Right.
They should be ashamed of it, all the men watching, if they're in there. I don't know. That's how I feel now. But I was I was married to them.
Your loyalty is always going to be to the governing body.
Yeah,
right. At the end of the day.
Because that's what they teach. And that's what they literally are drilling in our. I was telling her, they're drilling the same thing every week, every year. It's the same information. Like
repetition to make you believe it. Because say it enough times and you'll believe it. You're not going to question it because they say it every single week. You're going to believe it.
It's just like, and I always said, why do they repeat the same information? Why? I don't understand.
So Linda will have to come on and do a talk to us. So we were showing her comments. But come on, if anybody wants to come on. And I'll even go blank for a bit, have a break. But yeah, come on.
Yeah.
We want more the better.
Yeah. But for King Tony, you see, it was only until you sought higher education that you was exposed to the outside world. I didn't get that chance. Jen didn't get that chance. Most of us didn't get that chance. But that's where you didn't even know. It was like a blessing in disguise that you met that guy, that you came across these people, that he was making you think for once in your life. He was asking you questions. He allowed you to be yourself. And then you fall in love with somebody who gives you those wings of freedom. And now you're being penalized for falling in love with somebody who wasn't a witness just because he's not a witness? No.
Right.
And then they're telling us, oh, don't talk to this one anymore because she's doing something with this guy. I didn't care about that. I kept talking to you and to him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just, Shauna was just saying something. I should look it up here.
Yeah, Ruby, we actually heard that they're encouraging you to marry.
Well, not quite.
No, not encouraging, but they're allowing you to marry outside of the faith.
Oh, yeah. They did. They were like, what's the plan? It's either you leave and you cannot have any type of relationship with this person. How are you not gonna have a relationship with this person when you have a child?
Exactly. That's what my mother told me, the exact same thing. That's why I'm bringing this up.
Oh yeah, did we break families up? I lost that one. me
Yeah,
see if
and
I
they
can
would
find
they
that
would
one.
make me take out my son in the cold snow just so he could see his son in a pizzeria, sitting down in a corner, letting him see his son.
Mhm.
That's just like I don't get it. That's it's
Wow.
cold
Mm.
hearted. That's not love. And then what type of
See,
example is that?
see
Yeah.
what I think's important. If anybody from the Watchtowers out there, if they ever watch our stuff, if they want to really make changes in their fluff, they can make the changes, but then they have to come to us and apologize. They have to pick up where we left off. They have to
Right.
say, hey, King Tony, we totally screwed up. We totally
Right.
screwed up. You need to have a relationship with your kids. You need to, like they got to get and come from that angle.
Yeah.
But they won't. Watchtower will never apologize. They always blame it on Jehovah. They say, well, Jehovah, give us new light. It's not our fault. Jehovah gave us new
No,
light.
no, because they don't even acknowledge. If you don't acknowledge, you
No.
can't apologize. So they're never
Hi,
No.
going to.
Bonnie.
They're never gonna do
Hello,
it.
Bonnie.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Bonnie.
Bonnie.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, everyone.
Nice
How's
to
your
see
day
you,
going?
Bonnie.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So since we have more people, I'm gonna reinstate my 3-minute timer, and we can move on to Jen, and then we're gonna move on to Bonnie. So Jen,
Great.
give us a in a nutshell what happened in your situation, why you were shunned, or why did you leave, and you got 3 minutes. Unmute yourself. Go ahead.
All right. So with me is it started back where 2014, where I found myself in need of help, professional help. And part of that reason where I was looking for help was that I was going through a lot with my family. And all of that entailed, of course, into the religion I was in the congregation and with the brothers and sisters. There's so much entailed. So to keep it short and brief, like basically I've come to realize that I needed to find my own way around life and experiencing things and doing things on my own without having to have the help I needed. So I had to expose myself to doing things like transportation or, you know, um finding new ways to uncover myself. That way I don't have to rely on them. But
Right.
yeah.
Thank you, Jen. We're gonna come back to you and we're gonna dive a little bit deeper because I think your story resonates with a lot of people in the LGW community. Um, and we're gonna move to Bonnie. Go ahead, Bonnie. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Um, I left a long time ago. I was 35 at the time. It was in, I think, 1991. I think it was 1991. I had started doing research because there were things that were bothering me. Uh, um, Things that the society that were doing that were incompatible with an organization of truth. They were acting like a corporation. They were working as a corporation, um, and uh, it was like stepping stones. And it all started coming together and bothering me. And so I started doing research, and then I was looking into the Bible and examining the Bible itself, and uh, saw so many inaccuracies in the Watchtower's Bible, and saw that it was uh, being changed and was just it was not true. I mean, they were
Mm-hmm.
changing it. And I had 3 little kids. I was married to a ministerial servant. Um, I had, I was a third generation witness, and I really totally believed it. I pioneered, I had quit school to pioneer because 1975 was going to be the end of the world. And I mean, I when I got married, I pioneered. I was really, really a faithful witness.
Mm-hmm.
I studied with my children. I really made sure that they knew all the scriptures, they memorized scriptures, they knew the Bible, how to use the Bible. They could read before they went to school. I was a good mom,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't bring them up. I couldn't stay being a witness. And so I made my decision to resign. And I had, I ended up hooking up with some charismatic Catholics, and
Mm-hmm.
which is the worst thing that any witness could do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, and when I told my mom, she absolutely decided to shun me. My dad did. It was a really difficult decision because I had so many relatives and friends
Mm-hmm.
since I was a little kid. And we lived in Connecticut. So my whole world revolved around witnesses. My husband had right away taken steps to go to the society. And unbeknownst to me, the Watchtower had videos, materials, books
Mm-hmm.
for divorcing apostate spouses,
Mm-hmm.
to teach children, to study with children so that they would know what to teach the children, so that they
Mm-hmm.
would know how to answer to judges, to lawyers, to psychiatrists. They
Oh,
he
coaching them on what to say.
he studied with them right away.
If you're
And
leaving the Watchtower, for you got to get a good lawyer, like to get your kids a good lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
If you're leaving,
yeah,
it's they have so much material for their people
Mm-hmm.
legally.
yep,
It just
yep.
blows your mind. So you need a good lawyer.
They, they provided him with a Watchtower lawyer, and I thought I was dead in the water. It looked like I was going to lose my children, and but Holy Spirit was on my side. And as I was being deposed in this
Mm-hmm.
lawyer's office, there was an Awake magazine on um, uh, uh, school children not being allowed to um, participate in school events, participate in sports. And I
Wow.
picked up that article and I brought it with me to the deposition. And the lawyer took it away from me. I thought, oh no, now what do I do? Well, the lawyer had put it inside his notes and he brought it to court. He didn't realize. And when he started asking me the questions, he ended up putting it on the stand with him.
Mm-mm.
And he didn't realize it. So I was able to show it to the judge. I had my evidence right there. And
Mm.
um, what ended up happening was all through the two older kids were taking, well, my middle child was, she was totally indoctrinated. But my older daughter, she was sort of on the fence, but wanting to, she knew what was really going on.
Mm-hmm.
But my ex-husband was, he was treating her like she was the mother, and he was giving her all the responsibilities that I had. So
Wow.
one night, my son, who was 6 or 7, had gotten uh, sick, and he was throwing up in bed. And my ex-husband worked uh, nights or late, and he didn't want to get up to take care of my son. So he told my daughter to take care of him. And she called me up and she said, "Can you come over and take care of him? I really can't do this." And I said that I
Mm-hmm.
would, but not allowed to. I said, pray to Jehovah about it. Pray. And uh, Jehovah will give you the answer. He'll help you through this. Well, in the morning, she decided to tell the lawyer the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. And she told her lawyer about the videos, about all of the studying materials, and admitted everything, all the lies and everything. So the
Wow.
lawyer told the court what was really going on behind closed doors, and I ended up winning custody of my kids.
Wow.
And
That's an amazing story, Bonnie. Thank you for sharing.
Well,
yeah,
thank you. That
and
Wow.
was
so
I was wondering how that was going to happen. Was it a long
yeah,
court
Wow.
battle? A lot of court
a
battles?
year and a half. It was
Really?
a year and a half, and it was precedent at the time in Connecticut. And
Mm.
so it's turned out that two of my kids are not witnesses. My middle child is still a witness, but
Hmm.
her 3 sons now, who are all they're
Hmm.
all in college now, but none of
Hmm.
the boys are witnesses. And
Good.
she shunned me for a lot of years, but
Hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't shun me anymore.
Oh, good for you.
And I had ended up going back into going through the steps to get reinstated. I went through their
Hmm.
Nazi
Mm.
interrogations to
Hmm.
get back into being a witness, but it was so horrifying that as soon as I got reinstated, and they blackmailed me and said if I said anything about how horrific it was, that they would disfellowship me on the spot.
Really?
Mm.
Yeah,
They
that's
black.
what they told me. And the one that did the interrogating, um, they should have reinstated me because it was like a year and a half. My daughter was getting married at this time,
Mm.
and he refused to reinstate me before she got married, just so that I couldn't be at her wedding. He
Wow.
was such a prick. He was really a prick.
Mm.
So I was shunned through my daughter let me go to the ceremony, but I had to sit in the back.
Mm-hmm.
No, I couldn't
Wow.
be a part of anything. They wouldn't
Yeah.
take any pictures of me there. I had to be totally, oblivious
Yeah.
to everything. I couldn't go to the reception. I couldn't, and he did it just to be a prick. It was
Yeah.
so cruel, this guy. So I had to endure 25 years of being shunned by my whole
Wow.
family. It was terrible.
Mhm.
It was really terrible.
Sorry to
Wow,
hear that.
Bonnie.
So,
Thank you
Well,
so
you're a
much for
survivor.
hopping on. Yeah.
We're gonna we're gonna
it's
give you a
over
big
with,
hand
and
here.
you know,
Yes.
it's it was a hard thing to go through, but it's a wonderful life, and we have a good relationship with everybody now. So it's a good thing.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're an
Amazing.
example to all of us.
Yeah. Thank you
You,
Okay.
for
you,
coming on and sharing that.
you are such a
Okay.
good mom. You are such a good mom. You did
Hmm.
what
Well,
you needed to do in spite of how they were manipulating you and the family. I'm just so proud of you. I'm just so impressed with what you had to endure and the way you did it. I mean, I'm
well,
angry
thank
about
you.
what you had to endure, but I'm just
Hmm.
very like impressed that you got yourself back in the org so that you could be closer to your children, you know?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
quite a dedication. And
there's a lot of people that have endured much worse, but it gives me a great sense of honor to see what's happening
Hmm.
now with um,
yes,
PSA and just in the world, with them realizing how horrible of an organization this is.
when I
Wow.
think about the case that you went through and how you went to court and everything, there must be some transcripts or something. Your case confirms that they make out these booklets.
Hmm.
Now, I didn't know anything about the films or videos that teach
Oh
the
yeah,
kids how to present themselves as if they do get to do these things that they're forbidden to do. And
yeah,
they make a whole booklet to teach the wife and the fam or the husband and the kids to basically lie,
Hmm.
yeah,
which falls under spiritual warfare or something to that effect. Some people are not entitled to know the truth and all this crap. I was able to interview William Bowen. He got to be one of my first interviews. I was blown away when he told me one of the things that they will do when there's a situation when they want to separate a couple is they will encourage the couple that they will encourage the person that wants to remain a witness to make a police report and get um, a restraining order on the other partner claiming abuse.
Hmm.
yeah,
That gets them out of the house for at least 60 days or something to that effect. So they get them out of the house, you know, and then they're starting in on the kids with what is called parental alienation. And that's where they talk stuff like your father isn't your spiritual leader or your mother isn't your spiritual leader because they've left Jehovah and joined the devil. All this kind of horrible talk, it's called parental alienation, and it's horrible. They basically talk crap about the parent that no longer wants to remain a witness. I mean, I've heard stories where an elder would walk into a home and tell the wife and children, your father is no longer the spiritual head, your mother is now.
yeah,
Who do
yeah,
they think they are? How dare them?
yeah,
How dare them? And many of the people are all too fine to not talk about spiritual things. But in my opinion, they are entitled to speak of spiritual things. Those children are theirs, but they'll do anything they can to get them to separate.
it,
I've
Hmm.
it
heard of
wouldn't,
stories where I've heard of stories where a partner will come home, the house is empty, the bank account is drained,
yeah,
and the
that
elders.
happened to me.
Oh my goodness, darling, I'm so sorry to hear that.
They they
Be- Oh,
they also right away told the children that I wasn't allowed to put them to bed anymore.
How
I
dare
couldn't
them?
say a prayer with them. I wasn't allowed to put them to bed at night or read to them. My husband wouldn't let me bring them anywhere. It was a total. It was like night and day. Everything changed. But I ended up finding a man from California, a brother, a former brother. I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Magnani, I think.
Okay.
He served as an expert witness in cases like mine, and
He said what?
he would
Can you
go to
repeat
talk
that?
to
He said
he would
what?
talk to the lawyers.
Okay. Oh, he was an expert witness. That's what he said. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, he would serve as an expert witness, and so he would talk to the lawyers. He would talk to the psychiatrist for the children, and he would go and be an expert on the stand for you, but the judge wouldn't. The the watch wouldn't. He put some sort of motion in that didn't allow him to be in the court, but at least he did get to the children's lawyer and counselor before that happened. So he
Okay.
was able to at least help them to understand what was going on, which made a big impact
Oh,
because
that's
they had
wonderful.
no clue. They didn't understand.
Of
Most
course not.
of these lawyers didn't understand what was really happening. So it was a big help having him.
Oh my goodness. Actually, William Bowen does that as well. He's an expert witness as well. So he has a site, Silent Lambs, and
Yeah.
you're kept up to date with the latest abuse situations. But he also does something separate, which is to be an expert witness, which he knows the org inside and out. It's William Bowen. I had no
I've heard
idea.
of that website.
Yeah,
I've
I
heard of
had
it.
no idea that he was he had gone to Bethel or anything.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a big help for parents because we're kept so in the dark as to the machinations of
Mm-hmm.
the organization.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up, and also King Tony's situation, because we had the children, right? And then they tell us how they wanted to dictate our relationships, dictate our parenting skills, and say, this is the way you have to parent. You have to bring your kids to the kingdom hall. That's how you raise them. And if the father doesn't want to
Yeah,
involve himself, then you got to get rid of him because he's hindering you from your relationship with Jehovah. And they don't even think about
yeah,
what's the best interest of the child, what's the best interest for the single mother that you're turning her into. And I refused
yeah,
to let my family or my mother turn me into a single mother just because he wasn't he didn't get reinstated. Same thing with King Tony. She refused to let that become an issue because they were pushing her to marry this guy, just like they pushed me to marry the one that I was with. And unfortunately, I was too indoctrinated and I believed it, and I married the guy. And that's a whole other
yeah,
can of worms that will be here all night. But that's the point. They want to dictate your life and how you're supposed to do things instead of doing it case by case, and how your relationship with Jehovah, if you believe in Jehovah, and that should be a personal issue. You, with that person,
right,
you decide how you want to raise your child. You have the parental control and the parental rights. And we need to stand up for those rights. It's human rights, it's parental rights, it's everything under the god-given rights. The government doesn't give you rights, religion doesn't give you rights. God-given rights that are supposed to be protected, and in America we should be protected with those rights, but they trample on those rights in the name of religion. And that's where I tell my cousins, that's where they got it wrong. They're not even a religion and they're telling you how to live your life. No, you can read the Bible, I could read the Bible, and we could believe in God, believe in Jesus, and we have different interpretations or different levels of how serious we want to take our relationship with God. Nobody dictates that, especially with your children. So do not let anybody bully you into doing things you don't want to do with your kids.
Exactly. And you know your own children, and you know what's good for them, and you know what's good for you. So you need to be the parent. You need to help your children.
Exactly right. Um, Linda James, if you want to give some of your experience with shunning, you can go ahead and give us your experience if you want.
Well, sure. And you know, I love Ruby's attitude. Don't let nobody do any of this stuff to you. You know, it's like I used to have this attitude, much like her, and my mother was very abusive and pretty much beat that spirit right out of me. So I learned to just be very well, learned to just keep my mouth shut because my mama would beat that demon out of me. Okay,
Mhm.
so between the organization being controlling and between my mother being controlling, it was very hard for me to ever stand up for myself. So when I hear Ruby do that, I'm just so thrilled. I'm just so proud of her. Even if we
I'm
disagree
happy.
on stuff, I just like, I'm so, you go, girl, you go. You know, I just love the fact that she has that in her. And especially at the age that she is. See, I was 25 and pregnant with my second child before my mother stopped beating on me. And it's because I finally hit her back. I
Mm,
never thought I could hit her back. People would tell me, just hit her back. And I'm like, oh no, I can't hit I can't hit my mother. That's how
mhm,
it's learned helplessness is what it's called. So that's where I was at. Like I grew up believing the spankings that I got and the beatings that I got, whereas, don't spare the rod and you'll live longer if you're disciplined and all this stuff. Ugh, it was beyond a
mhm,
spanking, you know what I'm saying? It was horrible. But um I ended up never getting baptized, and it wasn't because of lack of trying. I
mhm,
studied twice, once at 17 and once at about 23, and I just could not make it make sense to me. And I just thought it was me, like I just didn't understand stuff because I had like learning disabilities and stuff. And after
mhm,
6 months, they dropped me. They just dropped me. I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm not getting baptized, and it just didn't affect me that much. But and I my mother didn't push me to get baptized either. But I've
mhm,
came to the conclusion today that I don't think she really wanted me to get baptized because she would have had to shun me, and she's
mhm,
so controlling. She would not have been able to talk to me, and I even though she never hit me after that point that I finally hit her, like that day even
mhm,
when I hit her back, I went into this zone of screaming at her, telling her
mhm,
if she ever laid a hand on me again, I'd, kick her
mhm,
ass. And I'd never spoken to my mother that way, right? And
mhm,
of course, she never laid a hand on me. And then she left, and all of a sudden, the neighbors came running over. Are you okay? And I said, what happened? And then one of the neighbors said, you can't press charges on your mother. This
mhm,
never even crossed my mind. And I went right back into, oh no, I couldn't do that. See where my head was still at? I had a
mhm,
moment, and I'll tell you why I have that moment of hitting her back is because my daughter walked into the back door and was watching this situation. And in my head at that time, if my daughter watched me get beat down by my daughter would see her as the final authority. And I could
mhm,
not let that happen. I could not let that happen. I never wanted my kids to grow up in the org. And seeing my mother as the final authority would mean that my kids would grow up in the org. So it was just, I mean, it took me that long, 25 years old. I finally hit her back. It's bizarre. But
wow.
I was 16. Back when I was 16, I had my very first boyfriend, and I met him at school, and he was my first love. And you know how it goes. Well, you can't have a worldly boyfriend. Let's get him a Bible study. Okay,
Mhm,
so they started a Bible study with him. His mother was showing up, His sister was showing up. They were always showing up at the meeting, right?
Mhm.
Well, shortly after my best friend, one of my friends was murdered by William Bonin, the freeway killer of Los Angeles, which I didn't put together till like this year. I just had this feeling of I just didn't care much, but I did want to consummate our little friendship, our little relationship. You know, I was stupid in love. Okay, so there I was, 16, and I had sex for the first time, and then I had smoked some pot with somebody, another friend of mine, and I had a very bad reaction. I turned paranoid to no end. I had panic attacks, like rolling panic attacks. It made me bedridden. I couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks. Lost 20 pounds, and
I read an article where some people are actually allergic to it. So maybe you're one of those people.
yeah, we could call it that. Sure. And to this day, I'm not a drinker, or I don't do any of that. But I just remember not caring and asking, well, let me have some of that. I was just walking around in a zombie state. But what ended up happening was my dad was upset with the friend of mine that I had smoked pot with, because here I was bedridden for 2 weeks. And then finally, the sister of my friend called up and says, well, maybe she's having panic attacks because she's paranoid that she might be pregnant, right? I'm busted, right? Busted. My dad answers the phone. He looks at me. I'm like, oh no, I'm busted. Okay. I didn't deny it. And the organization wanted us to break up. That's their solution, for us to break up. And because I wasn't baptized, I didn't get taken in the back room. But what they did was, and this was something I didn't realize until about 5 years ago. What happened was the elders would have my mother come ask me questions, and then go and go back to the elders and give them the answers. I, to this day, resent that, because I thought I was having a conversation with my mother. Okay, I didn't know I was answering to elders. So, she's asking me if I would be willing to stop seeing him. And I'm like, no. Here I am, stupid in love. I'm 16. He's my first love. Of course I want to keep seeing him. What do you mean? I'm not going to see him again. He's going to the kingdom. He's going to the kingdom hall and doing all the right stuff and everything, So they literally made us break up.
Yep.
Then, because of my panic attacks, I went to see a therapist. This was a Jehovah's Witness therapist, by the way. I did not know this Jehovah's Witness therapist was an elder. But finally, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, thank God I have somebody I can talk to. I really believed that I could open up and share things that I've never been able to say in any other situation. And well, I went and seen my boyfriend, because again, I was stupid in love and couldn't stop seeing him. I just really loved him. And, the idea of us being separated just did not compute in my head. And so I let the therapist know that I did go and see him after the organization wanted us to break up. And silly me thinking, this was back in the days of Clinton, silly me thinking I didn't have sex with that woman. There was Mr. Clinton claimed that he didn't have sex with that woman, talking about Monica Lewinsky. And this was a claim of oral sex. Silly me at 16 had no idea of the bedroom rules, because the occasion hadn't been brought up to inform me of the bedroom rules. I had no idea that was even forbidden within a marriage. So I'm thinking, I'm just like, it's not really sex. It's, just some oral
because you don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I totally didn't know. So I tell him this, and he looks at me and he says, well, I'm an elder. I'm going to have to call headquarters and report you.
No.
This is what my therapist told me.
But isn't that a patient setting though? Like a professional setting?
I thought so too. So somebody went and checked it. It was before HIPAA law came into play.
That's
So
exactly.
this was in 1980.
Maybe he
Oh,
wasn't licensed. Maybe he's one of those. There's a lot of fake Jehovah's Witness therapists. I spent thousands of dollars on fake therapists. I did a
You may
show
be
on them.
right. You may be right, but I couldn't find him for years. I asked my mother what his name was, meaning the therapist. She would never give me his name. And then Carrie Kay was talking one day on a show. Real pretty Carrie Kay. She's got blonde hair, and she's really she's an artist and just real cool. She starts talking about the congregation she went to in Woodland Hills. Well, that's where my therapist was. I'm in Southern California. Woodland Hills is in Southern California as well. And I talked to her. I talked to her on this talk show. I said, "Did you know this therapist?" She said she did. So then we touched bases in private, like through Messenger. And my fantasy was to confront him and tell him, what you did was really horrible, and that
right.
wasn't cool. That was not cool. And then I found out from her, his wife had left him, and his son committed suicide. And I looked at that situation, and I had no desire to give him a "you shouldn't have done that to me" comment. I just evidently, you know, I cannot help but believe that this organization played into those results. I could be wrong, but
Right.
okay, my experience with him was I have to call headquarters and report you. And I was just like, could not believe it. So, anyways, it was quite horrible. So by the time I turned 18 and had my other worldly boyfriend, I was not going to let nobody tell me that I couldn't be with him. Then I married him. His mother helped raise me, which she was amazing. I was going to beauty school, and I was going through the ROP program, and which meant you paid a certain amount up front and then a certain amount weekly. So I had to come up with $8 every week, and then some bus money. She would give me crumbled up dollar bills and change to make sure that I could get on the bus every day there and back.
Wow.
She gave me my very first birthday cake. I had my first Christmas with them, and she just helped me understand just how the world worked, because I was very naive, very socially stunted, and had my JW mindset still, even though I was away from the organization. I believe that the elders told my dad to kick me out because I would not break up with this guy. So, so I left, and then after 7 years, I met my very first ex-Bethelite, which was Randall Waters. He turned me on to my very first apostate, which was Cynthia Hampton, and she was on the Leah Remini show. She was in the back behind one of the couches in a cobalt blue dress, sitting next to Fifth. And she talked, her story was the one about how her husband used to beat her, and the elders would just tell her to go home and be a better wife. And then later on, he was smoking, and she's like, "Can he get disfellowship for that?" And they did disfellowship him for that.
Wow.
It was her story that made Leah Remini go unfriggin' believable, But when she first told me about this story, it didn't even faze me. That's how used to abuse that I was. Oh, he beat you? Like, that just didn't even, I didn't go, oh my gosh, that was horrible. I was just like, that about sounds right, Day in the life in the watchtower, day in the life in the world of, being a JW, and just if you're bad, you get beat, It just didn't faze me. Today, of course, I think much differently, but yeah. I believe that my mother didn't push me to get baptized so that she could still control me, because that's what she's been doing for years, is trying to still control me. So I've had to learn things like how to set a boundary, which is very different. I had to learn to use terminology like, that's not going to work for me, or these are the choices that I'm able to give you, rather than doing things in the manner that she's instructed me to do. Like, I officiated my daughter's wedding. She calls me up and lets me know that unless it's a secular wedding, she's not going to be able to go. And I said, okay, well, I still have to talk to Sarah, my daughter, and her husband to find out what kind of a wedding they want to have, because that's how I was going to write out the, you know, the nuptials or whatever it was going to be in the manner that they wanted it. And she just kept telling me over and over again that she's not going to be able to go. And all I could tell her was, like, she literally wanted me to go, okay, Mom, I'll make sure it's secular. I believed it was going to be secular, but I didn't know for sure. So it's still that way. She's texts me JW articles all the time. And it's like, but I'm not supposed to tell her anything in return, but every so often I do. But yeah, so.
Wow.
I would
That-
say, from what I read about narcissists, you're handling it the right way. You have to give them the feeling that they're in control, but yet you're not giving them control. But a narcissist, I don't know. I don't do well with narcissists because I am one to a certain extent.
You don't.
We all are. We all are. There's a scale, you know.
Don't fight a
You
narcissist.
don't fight with somebody who likes to fight, right?
Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
problem with
It's
lots of
sport,
JWs.
Yeah. So.
Well, JWs are taught to fight in the ministry. It's kind of a
Yes.
fight through that
JWs
Bible.
don't have the market cornered on narcissism
No.
either. It
No,
just
wow.
feeds it.
But there's a,
I know.
Mhm.
you know,
She's right.
they used to
Good
call it,
ones,
they used
right?
to nail it down: controller, promoter, supporter. My wife hates this, right? She just hates these categories.
Label me.
But there's controller, promoter. What did they used to teach this back in the 80s, and they don't teach it to this day because it's kind of not right. But controller, promoter, supporter, and what? Controller. Controller's not a negative thing. So I took this stupid course, and I come in, of course, as a controller. No one likes controllers, right? But that's what I did my whole life. I ran companies. I was self-employed, so I ran my own company for 30 years,
Right.
and then 40 actually. You know, once you run your own, if you want to do that. Now, my son, I thought everyone was like me. As a JW, I thought all JWs kind of think the same. They are the same. We're all the same, right? We're all united. So I thought everyone kind of thought the same and is the same. And then, I don't know, not until after I met my good wife do I realize, well, we're all different. There's what, 9 billion of us or 8 billion of us on this planet. We're all different. We're all a little bit different.
Yes.
You cannot label anybody any certain way. Just get that out of your head. That's the very first thing my wife taught me. But as a JW, we do tend to think everyone's the same.
Well,
And
I learned
had to work.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I learned from Stephen Hassan that cult leaders tend to be narcissists. So that's what my study was, is I started studying about narcissism. And what is it? You know, I was learning about narcissism. That's how I found Stephen Hassan. And that's how I realized that cult leaders are pretty much all narcissists. And so are political leaders and people, CEOs of companies, you know, these really top people that are wealthy, right? So also, cult leaders want to train their followers to be mini me's. So they're trained within the cults or high control, high demand groups. They're creating this top down, teaching the men or the women that are in leadership position to be high on the narcissistic realm. So this teaching that we're taught to begin with is, don't trust your own heart. It's going to kill you. You know, it's treacherous, and don't trust your intuition. You can't trust yourself at all. You can't lead yourself at all. You must rely on God, but which, by the way, it's us that God chose to use. So, you know, choose us. So that's where we get gaslit. We're gaslit to give over our power. It is at that point where we choose God, and in actuality, it's deception. We're choosing the organization to direct us. And from then on, you know, like what I was hearing earlier, it goes against your intuition. It goes against your gut. You're informed to do things that you know better than to do, but you're telling yourself, yeah, but God's telling me to do it. So you do stuff that goes against who you are.
You're
Then
right. Right.
then they're telling you to put on the new personality, which adds to you're not supposed to be who you are. You know, so you can't. Yes, so you have to be somebody else in order to come to Jehovah.
Oh,
It's
hell no.
so there's a lot of stuffing down of our own intuitions and the way we want to think. I love listening to the good wife start just speaking out. She says what's on her mind. I love hearing Ruby do it too. She says what's
Yeah.
on her mind, what's on her mind.
No.
And within the organization, we're not able to do that at
You
all.
know what I liked
We would,
about what you
we
said,
would be
Linda?
reprimanded. Go ahead. Yes.
Not to trust our own thinking. And
Yes.
I used to think I had it all figured out. I like for years, even I got married, remarried, and I married the good wife. I still thought I had, and until recently, very not too long ago, I says to my good wife, I says, I don't have things figured out, and I think I need you to speak up more. And she
Oh, I
does
love
speak
it.
up a little, but we
What
we
a
need to,
shift.
like, I realize I got to humble myself and just my thinking could be all screwed up. Well, it is all screwed up, a lot of it, but it's getting better. And the times that I'm anxious is the times that I can't trust my thinking. And that's the times that I think I got it all figured out, when I'm
Yes.
anxious, and you get into that fight and flight mode like you did with your mom, and
Oh,
you told your mom off. And
yes.
I
Yeah.
had an outing with my mom and dad like that. I think we all do as siblings at one time or another. We have to take
Yes.
control of our own lives. But my mom and dad were running me, and I was run ragged. As an adult, as a 40-year-old, I was there every weekend and trying to be in the truth and trying to teach them the truth. And then they would use that to get me out there and blah. Finally, I had to say enough is enough with everyone. I quit the religion. I quit everything.
So were they
Anyway.
that way with you when you were growing up as well?
Oh, they were controllers. Yep. They
Wow,
were
it sounds like you were groomed. It
high
sounds like you were
discipline.
groomed to
We'd
become
get whipped.
part of a
It's
high
just,
control, high demand group.
but my mom and dad were not JWs. I was
They didn't
raised
have
as a
to be.
farm kid,
They
and
didn't have
but
to be. Yeah.
they're controllers. They want to control their kids, and then there comes a time that the kids say, "I'm not going to be controlled no more." I did that
Yeah.
when I was about 40. Took
That's
me that
okay.
long.
Yeah. I understand. And the connection that I'm making, and it's just what's going on in my head. I might not be right, but
Mhm.
to me, it sounds like the organization felt like home, felt like the right place for you to be because you were already being treated in such a way of being controlled
Mm-hmm.
that when
Yeah,
you found yourself in the organization and however you were being directed, it might have been familiar, is what I'm saying. When I
I used
say
to
it
tell
sounds like you were groomed, that's what I'm talking about.
I used to tell my
Can I,
dad, "Hey, you should join the religion. It's just the way you think. Same way that you think, Dad. No smoking, no
You'll
drugs.
fit in.
You can't overdrink, just like you think, Dad." Because
Yeah.
I used to smoke. I smoked a bit, when I was 18. My
Yeah.
dad really didn't like it. And then when I joined the religion, he didn't like that either.
Well, of course
He
not.
knew it was a cult, and
Yeah,
they
but
tried to get me out of it.
somebody else would be
so that
suggesting for you to do something.
Yeah,
can I tell
exactly.
you a little? Can I tell you a little funny
Go ahead.
story? The
Sure.
conversation has kind of veered away a little bit, but um, years ago there was a TV show called Love American Style, and there was this comedian whose name escapes me now. Now that I'm thinking about it, his name escapes me. But a, a he was a comedian that did uh, voices. He imitated voices, and so he was on this show. Love American Style was like a skit show. Like they would do little skits. If you know what I mean. Like there were a bunch of
Yes, I remember it.
maybe three
Mm-hmm.
little stories.
Hmm.
So he played this guy on this skit that also imitated voices, and there was this girl that was like a groupie, and she was so in love with him because he would do the voice of Cary Grant or Frank Sinatra, and she'd say, do Cary Grant, and so he'd do him, and then she'd say, do Frank Sinatra, and then she'd say, do the president, and so we'd do him, and then she'd say, but you know what I really want? I want to hear you. What do you mean? I want to hear you. I want to hear the Rich. Trying to think of what his real name is.
You're
Rich
talking about
something.
Rich Little. I think you're talking about
Yes,
Rich Little.
yes,
Yes.
Rich Little. Yeah, she says, do Rich Little. I want to hear you. And he said, well, no, I can't. And she said, oh, please do Rich Little. And then all of a sudden you hear this little tiny voice, like a little mouse, come out. And she said, what's that? What's that noise? That's me. That's me. That's who I am. And she said, do Cary Grant. Like
That's
she didn't want
funny.
to hear.
Wow.
She didn't want to hear who he really was. And
Wow.
in the Watchtower, we
Mhm.
put on this new personality, and it's
Yup.
like we get lost of
Mhm.
who we really are. We don't know who we really are
Mhm.
when
You're
we
right.
come out.
That's part of our
We
healing is
lose.
discovering who we are.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So when we leave, we have to find out what our real personality is. We have to find out what we are as people, what we like, what our,
Mhm.
you know, what we can do, who we can
Hmm.
become. And like you said over and over again, we haven't done higher education. We don't know what our limits are, what our bounds are, what we're capable are. And so this is our opportunity. And when we join groups like this, we encourage each other to explore and to
Mhm.
Absolutely.
grow
Yes. And we can
and
start with
to
those
do more.
the things that we thought about when we were younger, you know. What was the self-interests that we had that we were told we could not do? Start there.
Yeah,
Start there.
yeah,
Spend
Oh
some
yeah.
time
yeah,
in it and find out if that's something you want to continue doing or not. You get to do that today. You have that freedom today. And there's a reason you're attracted to it. And it really, if you get to do these things, it actually develops your own personality. You know what I'm saying? If you're an artist or
Mhm.
you enjoy doing sports or, you know, you have some talent or something, you pursue those things, the self-interest. And it's okay to be
Wow.
selfish, you know? I have to step away because I get to go out and do karaoke tonight and I have to get
Nice.
ready.
Thank you, Linda,
well,
for
good
joining
for
us.
Thank you
you.
for having me. It's so good to meet you, Bonnie. If you could find me
Nice.
on Facebook, I'm under Linda James. We might already be friends, but I really would like to talk with you a little bit more about your case because your
Oh,
case
wonderful.
confirms that
Oh,
what the organization does,
Right.
how they use that material.
Right.
And I think that could be very useful
Mhm.
in the
well,
future.
yeah, maybe I'll give you my email address because my daughter's on there, and I
Okay.
this is private. We don't want my daughter doesn't know about me being involved in anti-witness stuff, and that would create
Mhm.
Okay.
a problem.
Not a
So,
problem.
uh, but
So if you can give that to somebody.
I'll look for you. I'll look
Okay.
Right.
for you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Awesome.
Okay.
you.
Thank
It
you
was
so
nice
much.
talking with you.
Thank
Have
you
a
for
good night,
having
Yeah.
me, you
Linda.
guys. Good night.
All right.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. Bye, Vern and the good wife and
Okay, well,
Ruby.
thank you.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Bye.
Ruby. Okay, well, that brings an end to our program. Ruby, are you done? Or did you want to play
Um,
some more protest? I have protest here.
oh yeah, I mean, I can go on for longer. If anybody else wants to come
Yeah.
on, I can give more time to
I,
story time if you want to give your shunning experience, because what Bonnie just said really hit me about identity crisis. And that's something that we all go through no matter how old you are when you are waking up from a cult like this,
Mm.
especially since we were born and raised. That's
Mhm.
something that I didn't even get the chance to do it because I didn't even know what the outside world looked like or sounded like. Like I was homeschooled for too long, isolated for too long. And then when you wake up to something that you're really not supposed to wake up to because, they're keeping you on the straight and narrow. And then by accident, your brain just kind of switches from something that happened and you don't understand that. Then you realize after all of this awakening process, who am I at the
Mhm.
end of the day? When I go to sleep at night and I'm by myself because everybody's shunning me, who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? And then
Mhm.
all of those questions start coming up, and it hit me like a train. It hit me that I didn't know who I was. And then once I figured out that I was awake, I was
Mhm.
bamboozled. I was already married to somebody who I didn't really want to. I already
Mhm.
had a child that I didn't really want. Like, I didn't want none
Mhm.
of this, but I already had it. These were decisions that I thought I made with my own free will, and I didn't.
Mhm.
So, how do
Yeah.
you explain something like, well, you're the one who signed the contract, you're the one who signed the marriage license, you're the one who got pregnant, you're the
Mhm.
one, and then the blame gets put on you, and then you realize like, oh no, this was not me. Everybody
Mhm.
around me dictated this. And that's when the suicidal thoughts came in for me. And I think a lot of people deal with that because they realize
Mhm.
that they never really had control to begin with. And that's why I wanted to do this recap. That's why the
Yeah.
protest is important, because you wake
Yeah.
up and then you find out, you who are you? Who am I? Who did
Mhm.
I marry? And who's this kid that I just gave birth to? Like, you don't identify, you have a disassociation with those things. And that could be like postpartum, that could be depression, that
Yeah.
could be a lot of mental health issues that did not get intervened or identified at that time. But you're spiraling in your own mind. And that's where I found myself all
Mm.
But
alone.
Ruby, there's something that I nobody I I haven't heard anybody address, and I think it's important to say the Watchtower has instilled in all of us the idea that if you leave the Watchtower, if you
Mhm.
leave Jehovah's Witnesses, you have no choice but to kill yourself.
Exactly. There is
Yeah.
no option in
Interesting.
They
between.
they have said
Interesting.
that in in in
You know,
assemblies and in magazines throughout their
yeah.
history. If
See, they
those
use words
words,
like spiritually dead,
Mm-hmm.
right?
no, not just
Spiritually dead.
spiritually dead,
Yeah.
though, not just spiritually dead, they have said those exact words
Mm-hmm.
that that you will that 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 people people that leave the Watchtower will commit suicide. They have instilled that idea for for 100 years, absolutely 60 years, because I've heard it since I was a child. They have instilled that idea that
Mhm.
people that leave the Watchtower commit suicide. They will never be happy. That is another word,
Mhm.
sentence that they instill.
Yeah.
They will never be happy. They commit suicide.
Yeah.
They cannot be happy. They cannot
Right.
find happiness.
Yeah.
They won't
I
have
know
their
I've heard it
family.
too all these years.
Those,
Same thing.
those, and so those are things that are instilled in your mind,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
that's not a natural thought, but that is
Mm-hmm.
instilled in you. So you
Mhm.
you go to what you have been taught, because
Yeah.
it's not a natural thing that one out of, how many does it say? 30% of people that leave the
Right.
organization or get disfellowship commit suicide, or 10%
10%.
actually
Yeah.
do commit suicide, but 30% try to commit suicide.
Yep, I believe it.
That is not a natural thing,
Right.
and that's the reason why, because they instill it in us, and
Right.
That's why they're
that's
being
something that,
investigated.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly
so
right.
it's that is a very important thing to know. It's not something that's your fault. It's
Right.
not something that is something that makes you that there's something wrong with you. It's something that has been done to you.
Right. And you can change it. You have the power to change it. I have to
Yes.
hop off. I'm so sorry, Vern, but just I just want to give one thought to leave with everybody, and you can continue with the stream. But I
No,
want to share my
I think
screen.
we're all ready, but I wanted you to know that.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you so much. I just want to show you guys this that I put on Twitter. Okay, can you see it? Okay, I'm gonna read it because this is how I felt after the protest. I said, I'm so proud of the XJW community for growing strong enough to finally speak out against the human rights violations that the Jehovah's Witnesses have been doing to us. For decades, the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have been slandered with gossip and lies about our reasons for dissent. For decades, they have silenced us because they could. But now, in the age of the internet, we will no longer be the silent majority. Every single XJW who has been actively speaking against the Jehovah's Witnesses are to be thanked for paving the way for us. Thank you for not letting fear stop you from speaking out. Because of the XJW veterans online, my generation of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses were able to have a community to lean on. If it wasn't for the community online, I would not be here today. I would have gone back to the cult, or I would have ended it all. There was no option in between for those who wanted to escape. But the community showed me that there was another way. I realized I could make a family of complete strangers who never met me before. I had to replace my whole world with strangers to survive the outside world. And that's scary in itself. But I had no other choice that didn't involve harm. So I did it, and I escaped the cult relatively unscathed. I have emotional and mental wounds, but at least I'm alive. I get to make it better. But many of our brothers and sisters didn't make it. They ended their lives due to the shunning policy of the Jehovah's Witnesses. That's why we will never stay quiet about the abuse of Watchtower. I pray for the soul of my Jehovah's Witness friend, Karen Cyrus, who took her life over depression. I pray for the troubled soul of my cousin, who has attempted to take her life over this cult. I pray for my soul that struggles with the thoughts. If I didn't have kids, I probably would not be here. And I believe wholeheartedly that God gave me these blessings in disguise to save me from myself. They are the only other reason that I keep going. I couldn't leave behind my 3 kids to potentially be dragged into this cult if I ended it all, because I know that's exactly what's going to happen if my family had my kids. That fact kept me alive. And by the grace of God, who I didn't know at the time, has protected me without me even knowing. And I believe that. Because once I took the time to know Christ, I broke down every single time in tears, realizing that He carried me through those dark years. Once I identified Him in my life and accepted Him in my life, I finally had inner peace, no more depression, no more anxiety. I stopped the mental torture I was putting myself through by letting my family spew lies about my salvation. I am saved through Christ. I don't need a building or people to validate or affirm that to me anymore. I don't look to man for my salvation. I look to Christ. And Watchtower hates that fact that I don't need them anymore. They don't have power or control over me anymore. I am free. I am new. I am reborn. I believe in him and I have faith in him. And no one can take that away from me ever again. And I pray that more of us in the XW community can have that same freedom in Christ. Thank you.
Well,
You
I don't
really
know about
have a
you
gift.
guys, but let's give Ruby a big hand from the whole
Yeah.
community out there.
Thank you, Vern.
You
I love
definitely
that.
have a gift, Ruby. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Bonnie. I just wanted to
Yeah.
share that for everybody. And there's so much more to that story that I'm going to continue speaking about. But I have to hop off now. I'm so sorry, Vern, but I will leave you. I'll
Yeah.
leave you to it. Bye, everybody.
Okay, thanks.
Did a
We'll see you
wonderful
later.
job.
Thank you,
That's a
Bonnie.
good
job.
survivor
Thank
story.
you, Ruby. Yeah,
Truly a good survivor
that's
story.
wonderful.
Yeah. Now, I was going to Oh, you're muted, Bonnie. You're muted, Bonnie. Just unmute your phone. There you
Okay,
go.
sorry about that.
There you go. That's okay.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I love your channel. You
Well,
and your
thank
good
you.
wife do a wonderful job. This is a good
Yeah.
place.
It's a good community, and we need to keep this up. Talk therapy is really good for us all. So
Yes.
thank you for coming on with us, Bonnie, and telling your story. It was a good story. You went through some hard times, but you know what? The biggest thing, you're a survivor.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my children, all of my children are very close, and that's a good
Yeah.
thing. And I'm close to them, and even my daughter and I, the one that's the witness,
Mhm.
we're very close. You know, it's
Mhm.
her dad's an elder, and she's extremely close with him.
Mhm.
But you know, we
Mhm.
don't talk religion, but
Mhm.
technically, I'm just I'm still a witness, but I just don't go to meetings.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, there's a lot, and that's okay. That's just great.
yeah,
You know, you're telling your story. You don't need to get disfellowship. No one needs to go and just do that. A lot of people are just
well,
fading out. I think a lot of people are just not going, and they're just fading out, and they're just tired of it all.
I resigned when I was 35,
Oh yeah.
and the only reason why I went back was because my my daughter had kept on
Hmm.
keeping my grandsons away from me,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't deal with that.
No. No.
So
Yeah. Hopefully
that's why
hopefully they'll do away with this shunning. Like, and this is the thing, what we're doing as apostates, and this is a message to everyone out there with channels, and yourself, Bonnie, coming on and telling your story. All of us getting on and telling our stories is putting a lot of pressure on the Watchtower, and they've changed in Norway because of the apostates. They are going to
yeah.
change around the world. This shunning will go away. It's obsolete. It's against the human rights. If they want to be a part of, if they want to go to court and fight human rights, well, they're going to have to do away with shunning because they're breaking human rights. And that's where it's
Yeah.
coming to. The whole world's looking down upon this organization. It has no choice but to change this organization. So I think coming in the future, Bonnie, I think it will get easier. That's what my belief is. But we have to
Well,
keep the
let's
pressure on.
face it. I think let's face it. It's about the money. They just want the
It
money.
is. They want to maintain
You know,
religious status.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's what
if
it
they
is.
can get their financial land grants and
Yeah,
you know, whatever kind
yeah.
of money situations,
Money, money
they're gonna
talks.
do it. Tax
It's all
tax write
about
off.
money.
They're
Yeah.
gonna do it. So
Anyways, we're going to bring a close to the show. We want to thank
yep.
everyone for being on with us. Thank you, Bonnie. And we're going to
Have a good
close with
night.
have a good night and keep living your life with love. That's what really counts, everyone. And when we put out a loving energy, like when our energy is love, it's going to attract love back. That's what happens. It's just we just put it out and it comes back to us. We don't have to do anything. We just put a smile on and give people a hug. That's what it's about. And you know what?
You guys are
It
good
feels
guys.
good. It feels good. Okay,
Yeah.
good night, everyone. We'll see you on the
Good
next
night.
video. Bye for now.